Hell is Us definitely has some interesting things going on under the hood. I mean, it's a game that has no map, no mini-map, and no quest markers. It's aiming to make exploration meaningful. Now, is that player freedom, or is it difficulty? Does it impede accessibility, or alternatively, is it celebrating allowing a player to approach the game in their own unrestricted way? You have the argument of the power of memory versus the intrepid note-taker. You see, at Gamescom, we went hands-on with an early section of the game, checking out a quest about finding a blacksmith, all the while being guided by Simon Girard, technical director from Rogue Factor, the team behind Hell is Us. Simon's passion for the design methods the team had taken weren't hidden away like some of the secrets in this game. It was on full show from the start when we were talking to him. He told us about the concept of player flattery opposed to silver plattery, as he put it. The team didn't want the player to just run from point A to point B, following the markers along a predefined path. Instead, they wanted to allow the player to feel smart and figure out the answers for themselves. As we approached one of the first villages in the game, we were shown an example of this. Approaching from one side of the village, you had an NPC standing on a raised platform. They were well lit, clearly visible, and the player would notice them. Approaching from the other side, we were able to see a blacksmith icon standing tall over the houses. It acted like a marker, indicating, hey, look here. Simon went on to explain about how they approached making exploration meaningful. You have to design the environment around these landmarks and other visually interesting aspects, and they have to draw the player towards them, convince them to explore. You've got to respect player time. You've got to fill the world with voiced NPCs in English or French, allowing you to trade and talk to the majority of them. It all added layers to the world. It breathed into it a sense of struggle in the shadow of a civil war. It showcased the horrors that these people are trying to survive. We're now back from Gamescom, and we've been playing Hell is Us for about a week. And while we haven't finished playing it, so we're not going to do a true review yet, we do recommend it as long as you know what you're in for when you pick it up. Similarities can easily be drawn here between Hell is Us and Atomfall, another recent release that relied on player discovery. Both games being worthy of your time and your attention, as long as you're willing to break out from under the mechanics you might have gotten used to. With no minimap, and with no quest markers, you're reliant on listening to conversations, which means if you're multi-monitoring Netflix while playing, you might miss something important. While the game does have a helpful mind map to allow you to see key notes and links between things, it's wise to take your own notes on top of this, so that when you come back to the game the next day, you remember the smaller tasks and puzzles you were working on. It's just trying to reduce that frustration or friction. And also, it's a wise idea because some of the puzzles don't get a mind map of their own. There's a lot scattered around on the side of walls and things that you just have to remember that they're there. Combat in Hell is Us is a key aspect as well, but it does feel secondary to the larger puzzles and exploration themes of the game. So don't be too worried about dropping that difficulty down and leaning into the puzzle aspect more. Of course, you could also go the other way, and you could crank up the combat difficulty to really feel that struggle. It does make the enemies feel a little spongy at times though. I will warn you of that. The combat system does also have customization with glyphs and element play going on, but I'd love a little more depth to the system to just allow it to shine. That's my one complaint. The combat does get more interesting in the later zones though, but it's a tricky balance. You've got to try and make enemies harder while not just stacking them with damage and health and drawing out a fight. At the end of it, Hell is Us feels like it's leaning more on older design philosophies. You could argue that by reducing the UI elements, it's making the player take in more of the horrors of the environment they're in. Having to look closer to find the solutions to the puzzles and listen carefully to the tragic tales before you. It's clever, and there's a lot here to like. When you design a game around these kind of concepts, you're never going to have universal acclaim. It's going to be contentious, but it does also allow you to create a stronger connection with the players that do vibe with a game that prioritizes these things, like exploration, player discovery, and just dropping a player into a mystery that only they can solve. Well, them and the IGN guides writer. And of course, this is a world that is designed to remind the player very frequently, war is hell.